Hello and welcome to a new show on the Evo India YouTube channel called Evo Quickies. Evo Quickies is going to be a weekly program where we bring you all the news from the automotive world. I'm Atish Mishra, assistant editor at Evo India, and I'm joined by Karan Singh, our senior correspondent, and we're going to be taking you through all the news that took place over the last week. This is our first episode, so we might cheat a little bit and go beyond the week, so just bear with us.
Now, before we get to it, do let us know if you like this format of video. Leave a comment on what you would like to see next week. And of course, give this video a thumbs up if you do like it and subscribe to the Evo India YouTube channel. Now, let's get right into our first topic. Now, the automotive sector is actually reeling under this second wave of the COVID-19 crisis at the moment. We should have been driving the new Skoda Octavia. I'd actually called dibs on it in the office. And also the Hyundai Alcazar. And we would have also known a little bit more about Maruti Suzuki's new small car. Of course, that hasn't taken place because of this second wave. And it is a bit of a tough spot right now.
That's right. Maruti Suzuki, Toyota, MG Motor India, Hero MotoCorp, Yamaha, they have all shut down their plants temporarily because of the COVID-19 crisis. But at the same time, the industry is banding together to help support the nation in these trying times, much like they did last year. For example, Maruti Suzuki has diverted all the oxygen that it normally uses for manufacturing towards medical use. Mahindra is doing something called Oxygen on Wheels, where it is essentially getting oxygen cylinders to people in need. The Skoda and Volkswagen Group have donated 1 million euros to the German Red Cross to provide relief and aid in India. And it's not just them, the whole industry. So Hero, Bajaj, TVS, Hyundai, Honda, Ford, the Tatas, MG, they've all contributed in some way or the other. Some of them are donating money, some of them are donating food, many of them are procuring medical supplies, oxygen concentrators, all sorts of stuff, and providing it to people in need.
These are certainly tough times, but that does not mean we can't look to the future and look at new cars on the horizon. One car that's on the horizon and a bit relevant to India, I feel, is that new Volkswagen Tiguan Allspace. Now, my family owns the 5-seater Tiguan, so this gets me and my dad pretty excited.
Do you like how this new Allspace looks?
Definitely. I think, the sharper headlights, the slightly more butch front end is much needed in an SUV. My Tiguan is a little too understated, I feel. I also like the new Volkswagen logos on the car. It looks a bit cleaner. That Tiguan lettering that's a little bold and sitting center on the boot. I think all of it looks really nice. Even the chrome detailing, I think it ups the appeal of the Tiguan. One detail I don't like quite so much are those fake exhaust tips. Now, the Tiguan isn't really a sporty car, so I feel Volkswagen could have done away with it, but these are the times we are in right now. Aside from that, even on the interior, there are a few changes. So the steering wheel now has touch-sensitive controls. There are the touch-sensitive AC controls. A few things that you might expect in a facelift usually. So the new Tiguan Allspace also gets the Matrix LED headlights, which works similar to what we've seen on Audis before, where they block out part of the beam to not blind oncoming traffic, which is a great feature, I feel. Will this Tiguan Allspace come to India though?
It might, but not in the near future. Volkswagen's focus for India right now is on the 5-seater Tiguan. So this facelift is also on the 5-seater Tiguan, and that is coming to India as a CKD. And it is also obviously focusing on the Taygun. It hasn't said anything about the Allspace yet. So it might come in the future, but nothing in the near future.
Okay, there's also another new Volkswagen that was unveiled recently, right? The Polo GTI?
Yes, the new Polo GTI has been teased, and I know how the Polo gets us enthusiasts all hot in the pants, but I think the Polo deserves a whole episode to itself, so we leave that for later.
Okay, so can we talk about that new Ferrari though?
Yes, we can, but before we do that, I just want to apologize if you can hear any sounds from the construction next door. I can't do anything about it right now. But yes, the new Ferrari. It's called the 812 Competizione, and there's also a Competizione A, where A stands for Aperta, essentially a convertible. And on paper, it is absolutely incredible. It is a new V12 Ferrari. It makes more power than before, and they've worked on the engine to give it a higher redline. The redline is now 9,500 RPM. That's incredible. And
Yeah.
You'd think 9,000 RPM was enough. That's what the Superfast has, but they've taken it up to 9,500 RPM and at the same time given it more power. That more power now makes it the most powerful, naturally aspirated Ferrari ever made. It is also, if I'm not wrong, the most powerful, naturally aspirated car on sale anywhere in the world today, production car. So it is really, really incredible. And Ferrari teased us with some really cool videos about it. So let's take a look at that right now.
Now, it's not just the engine that Ferrari has reworked on the 812 Competizione and the Competizione Aperta. It's also the design and the aero. Now, just one look at that front end will give you a clue to that because it's just so much more aggressive. That wide front splitter, all those curves and splits and creases, even that carbon blade on the bonnet, that actually helps with the cooling of the engine, allows the engineers to keep the area underneath the engine clean to improve downforce again. Now, at the back of the Competizione, you might notice that the rear screen is replaced by these little vortex generators. Now, that's a patented technology by Ferrari. It helps them increase downforce, and that's actually quite a differentiating element between the Competizione and the Competizione Aperta. Now, the Aperta obviously needs to fit a roof in its bum, so they couldn't put those vortex generators there. What they have done is between the flying buttresses that you see, they've put a little bridge which acts basically like a spoiler and improves downforce. Now, why not just put a spoiler instead? Now, the reason for that is that Ferrari doesn't really like to put these gaudy aero elements on their cars. They prefer making them beautiful, and I think that's all the better for it because that Competizione Aperta looks absolutely smashing. I've been lusting for it on the configurator for hours every single day, just trying to find my perfect spec. Which one do you prefer out of the two?
If you've been spending hours on the configurator, I don't think I'm assigning you enough work. But yeah. I'd like to have both, but if I had to pick, I would pick the Aperta as well because I think the experience would just be that much more dramatic with the open top and the V12 screaming. It must be mad. And speaking of V12 Ferraris, we've got 5 V12 Ferraris on the cover of the May 2021 issue of Evo India magazine. If you want to buy that magazine, look for the link in the description. It's over there. Just tap the link and you can buy a copy. We've got everything from the Daytona to the Superfast. So we've got the 550 Maranello in the middle, the 599 GTB Fiorano, the F12 Berlinetta, all of them, the entire range of V12 Super GTs from Ferrari. And we've traced that lineage. So we've traced the evolution of that iconic family of cars, which also happens to be the family that the Competizione comes from.
There's also a lot more in this issue. I actually got my hands on the Made in India Jeep Wrangler Rubicon, while you got around to driving the Audi S5 and the BMW X5M competition, you lucky shit. But we also got the first ride of the Triumph Trident 660, a first look at the Hyundai Alcazar, and a whole lot more. I also did a comparo with the Swift and its rivals to see which one an enthusiast should spend his money on.
So why don't you tell our viewers which cars you had in that test?
So no surprises, there was obviously the new 2021 Swift. There was also the i10 Neos Turbo, the Altroz iTurbo, the Polo TSI, and the Ford Figo.
And who won?
Well, I can't just tell you that. To find that out, you need to click the link in the description and grab your copy of the May 2021 issue.
Fair enough. Enough blowing our own trumpets. Let's talk about the news again. And another car that I want to talk about is the Mercedes Maybach S680. And that, by the way, also has a V12 engine. Didn't these guys get the memo about downsizing?
I know, 2 new V12 engine cars within the same week. I think the world is finally healing. Now, we don't know too much about this Maybach S680. We do know that it has the V12 engine, but not too much other than that. The pictures just popped up on the press site. There was no caption to the images even, or a press release. So, we don't know too much. We do feel there might be a bump in power, but it's anyone's guess at that point. You've actually driven a V12 powered Maybach, haven't you?
Yes, I actually drove the S650 Maybach, and that was for a story we did comparing it to the S63 Coupe, the best of the best S classes. And what a machine it was! That V12, that twin turbo V12, made 1,000 Nm in the S650. 1,000 Nm. Just imagine that. And it wasn't a hooligan by any standard. It was so dignified and so composed in the way it put down its power. It was so effortless. That's the right word for these cars. And to think that this new car is trying to be even more than that. Even in the luxury front, it's going to take things up a notch. It's based on this new generation S-Class for starters. So the whole architecture on the inside is different. It's long. So it's 180 longer than the long wheelbase S-Class. And it's got some ridiculous features. It's got stuff like a calf massager. It's got a neck warmer. And it's got active noise cancelling. And it works similar to how these headphones work. So where these headphones would play a certain frequency of sound to cancel out ambient noise, the Burmester system in the Maybach does exactly that. It plays a frequency of sound to kill the road noise, the wind noise, and keep the cabin hush. It's just mind-blowing what these guys do with these cars. It really is the pinnacle of luxury.
100%. There's actually some more Mercedes news that's a little bit more relevant to India. Arjun Maini, he's in the DTM this season and he's driving the Mercedes AMG GT3.
Yeah, testing was last week. How did that go?
Yeah, testing was last week. So this is actually the final test before they all get down to racing at Monza in June. And there were a total of 6 sessions held.
And before we go ahead, why don't you give our viewers a quick brief on what DTM is?
Right, so DTM stands for Deutsche Tourenwagen Masters. Now, that's as far as my German goes, but basically it's a touring car series based on two-door production cars. Now, in the past, we've seen Audi, Mercedes and BMW really go at it for the titles. But from this season on, we're also seeing McLaren, Ferrari and Lamborghini join the fight, mainly because they've also switched the regulations to the GT3 spec cars for the 2021 season. There are also some really accomplished drivers on the grid. So ex-F1 driver Timo Glock, you might remember him. And if you don't remember him, you might remember Alex Albon from Red Bull Racing. Both of them are on the grid this season.
Alex Albon is actually driving a Ferrari, and this means Arjun is in solid company. What really stood out to me was Arjun's car. The livery has the Indian tricolour on it, and I think that looks absolutely spectacular. How did his weekend go otherwise?
Well, he put in a solid number of laps and he actually topped the time sheets on the third day of testing in the morning session actually. And overall he finished 5th, which is, I think it's a great start for his season next month. And, commendable to say the least.
That's true. We wish Arjun all the best for the season opener in Monza. And with that, we're going to call this episode of Evo Quickies to a close. We want to hear from you. Did you enjoy this episode? What can we do different? Do you want it shorter? Do you want it longer? Let us know in the comments below. We want to tailor make this series to ensure you have the best viewing experience. Thanks for joining in. I'm Atish Mishra, joined by Karan Singh, and we're signing off.
Subscribe to the Evo India channel and hit the bell icon to keep pace with the thrill of driving.